Gathered friends, shout out to Xornate in the chat for that recommendation. Yeah, obviously, we got a Bionicle live stream today. It's got to start with Gathered Friends, episode number 5 of the Stay Breaking Show. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because it's not like our typical cover news set releases, stuff like that. It's going to be a full table read of a book from the Bionicle community. Now, straight up, it was by iconicstills Virtual Photography. This guy is absolutely insane. If you have not seen his work, we're going to be featuring it obviously through the whole book tonight, but also I'll pull up his Instagram. There's links in the description to this live stream for all of his information, all of his pages. It's truly out of this world. It's better than anything we honestly ever got officially from Lego at the time of Bionicle. It's on the level of those Fantoka animations, and I mean, he produces it in 4K, so it's honestly, it's higher quality. It's actually insane how great his stuff is. So I can't wait to dive into this stuff. I have not actually read through this full book yet, The Heroes of Metru Nui. So I haven't read through the whole thing. I've browsed through it obviously before the stream. But yeah, I'm as pumped as you guys are. I think you guys might be able to tell a little bit this stream. No, my camera did not get thrown in the trash. This is a secondary camera that I'm using right now. The main camera is sitting right up there. I actually did a great job with it. It's not in the shot, but we're doing a top down today, so that's going to be a blast. But that one's up there. This entire setup, and that's why I had to push this stream back from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, is this setup is hilarious right now that's around me. I've got a battery over here plugged into this camera up here, boom mics here. The computer running this whole stream is all the way like 20 feet away from me down there. So there's a lot going on. That's why it took a little bit to get set up. So thank you guys for being patient, letting this start at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Clocks go back tonight, so we get an extra hour. So how about that for everybody in the US? I guess international folks, so sorry. You guys have been getting busy in the chat already, which is awesome. I see, first of all, Ben Jam, and you've been updating us on your new Drew throughout different streams. Looks like you finally got it done. Congrats for you, man. But yeah, I figured before we go into this top-down table read, I'm gonna give iconicstills his full feature here. So let's go ahead and pull that one up. So Linktree, obviously, but what we've got going today is the Heroes of Metru Nui book. Now, I have the hard copy here. This is not currently available right now. This is the free digital copy that I have up. He's got tons of products on here, and by tons, I mean tons of Bionicle. Lots of fun Bionicle content you can see. Not currently for sale. Whether or not there's going to be another run of that in the future, we shall see. But this is going to be 50 unique posters. We're going to go into all of it. This hard book that I have, there is a digital version of this book, and it's essentially a free digital copy, but there is your name, your free price. So if you guys are so inclined to give him a little bit of a donation, we'll call it, for his efforts, the free digital copy is there, but anything on top of it, I'm sure he'd be super pumped about. So that is an option. There is also a Metru Nui book that he's got going, and this one I don't have yet. I have it ordered. It hasn't come in yet. So we're definitely going to be doing a live stream of that one too, assuming this one doesn't turn into an absolute travesty. We're going to be doing a live stream of the World of Metru Nui first. This was the first book. Metru Nui is second. So following along in that movie pattern, who doesn't love that? The whole release pattern of Bionicle, essentially. Who doesn't love that? So anyways, we've got over here, and this link is in the description to his link tree, so tons of different stuff on here. I actually saw on his YouTube channel there was a whole like 3.5 hour, 4 hour long live stream about creating these environments in Blender and the whole process of that. I believe iconicstills does work for commission. If he sees this at some point or another, maybe he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember seeing back in like June that he does do commissioned renders. So if you guys, you want something custom, that is a possibility. So definitely check out everything in the description of this video. I was not sent this book for free. It is not sponsored or anything like that. I bought this book and I reached out to him after the fact, and he actually gave me a very nice note on the inside of this book, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this whole live stream. So super pumped about it. The other thing that I want to show real quick is there's a trailer for the book, which is awesome. Obviously, iconicstills is a master at rendering. So I'm just going to, I'm going to let the trailer speak for itself. I'm going to turn my mic off. Let's go ahead and see exactly what we're getting into today.
Our great city, forsaken by its beloved heroes, but left to defend its own peace. It thrives. Now, new threats emerge from the shadows. Must we protect ourselves once more? Who else could possibly be worthy? After all, can we trust heroes anymore?
I mean, guys, how sweet! Like, I'm not like I wasn't kidding. Like, it is above the quality of honestly like any official Bionicle media we've ever gotten. It's actually crazy. Externate, I see you in the chat said this is unreal. It's the first time I saw it, I was speechless. We've seen a ton of great Bionicle content in the recent memory. You know, a couple different games that are in progress. This is incredible. It reminds me of the commercials, like even the CD-ROMs that would come with the Bionicle sets way back in the day. So super, super nostalgic. Just insane. So I can't wait to start diving into this book, and let's go ahead and do just that. You guys definitely fire away a ton of messages in the chat. I'm gonna be bouncing back and forth with those. This is definitely gonna be a longer stream. I'll give you guys a heads up right now. We've got a lot of pages to go through, but we're gonna do it. So let's go ahead and switch over to the top down here. All right. So here's our cover. Very nice book construction. It's the front. Let's take a look at the back real quick. Bionicle artwork with over 50 unique posters following the fight for Metru Nui. See the search for the Great Discs, taking down the Morbuzak conflict with the Vahki, and the rise of the Makuta in a whole new way, featuring behind-the-scenes looks at the creation process and a peek into what will become the Heroes of Metru Nui short film project. See a closer look at creators involved, from writing and music to 3D modeling and rigging. I'm more pumped up now. I'm actually even more pumped up now. All right. Let's go ahead. Now, this was, I believe, announced or, open for pre-order starting on Bionicle Day, August 10th, if you guys weren't familiar with that. And there you go. I mean, again, incredible. Slide it over there. So, I mean, I can pull myself down at any point. CD-ROM animations. There we go. I was gonna say someone was hiding behind me, so this is gonna be a little bit tough to see there. But I'm gonna start right here. In 2004, the world was introduced to the mystery and wonder of Metru Nui, filled with heroes and villains that would decide the fate of the Bionicle universe. June 2023, I just finished the World of Metru Nui project and was considering my options for the future, so I went on a long walk. On that walk, I wrote down the entire plan for my newest project, Heroes of Metru Nui, a bold retelling of the 2004 Bionicle story art through both an art book and an animated project. The search for the Great Discs was, in my opinion, the best part of that era. A monstrous plant is destroying the city, Matoran are going missing, and the last Toa has vanished. Now 6 new Toa must take up the mantle and prove what it means to be heroes. This art book documents not only my creative process, but the main plot beats of the 2004 story, from the dawn of the Toa Metru to evacuating the Matoran to the golden shores of Metru Nui. It also acts as concept art for the Heroes of Metru Nui animated project. This book represents all the hard work myself and my team have poured into this endeavor. The animated project will show slices of 2004's world and story, fully realized to the same standard of quality as both of my trailers. Focused on the search for the Great Discs and the confrontation with the Morbuzak, this project aims to bring some life to the best moments of that narrative in a way never done before. It's ambitious, daunting, and crazy, but the best projects always are. This book, the world of Metru Nui, is free for all to download and view. I hope everyone enjoys this book as I have in creating it and working on the animated projects. Much love to all from iconicstills visual photography and the Heroes of Metru Nui team. Happy Bionicle Day, everyone. Got our table of contents here. Benjamin says, question for everyone. Who is your, I'm assuming, favorite Toa Metru? If we're going off of the movies, Matau. If we're going off of, just the, set content, how could you not like Vakama? That design is absolutely sweet. Introducing the Heroes of Metru Nui, there's Toa Lee Khan. All right, so go ahead and quick adjust right here. Now, I believe this is going to take me a second to get oriented here because I'm trying to read almost like horizontal, and then I got the camera above me, so just hang with me for a little bit. X-Renate says, no comma all day, such a strong character. All right, so this is, if you recognize, it looks almost like that one scene from Legends of Metru Nui. Toa Lee Khan's hiding. We got some Dark Hunters in the background, specifically Kreka and Nadiki. Boy, this would be a great time to be fluent. I am not fluent in the Matoran language, so I'm not going to stretch your guys' time all the way out through trying to figure that stuff out. So 3D assets, we got some information about the color palette. Now, as someone who used to do a ton of work in video production, obviously still kind of do with this channel, this is all amazing to me. I love this. Seeing these different wireframes, the blender scene, the clay render, the different passes, this is incredible. So the last Toa versus the Dark Hunters. Again, I know this is a little bit small here, but I'm going to go through it. I wish I could, remote control zoom on my my camera here, but unfortunately that's just not an option. Toa Lee Khan, the last Toa of Metru Nui. As he secures the Toa Stones, the key to creating the next generation of heroes, the Dark Hunters known as Nadiki and Kreka launch their insidious attack. To me, this is such an important moment of the 2004 storyline. It's the first beat of the film, the catalyst for the Toa Metru's creation and journey from Matoran to Turaga. At this point, Lee Khan knows his end is near, but he still fights for the city and its people whom he holds dear. The advanced renders of Metru Nui architecture show strong shapes with sharp edges and an emphasis on stone materials, while the film uses a more abstract and alien design language. While I tend to lean more into Advance's vision with the stone slabs adorning the walls, I took elements from the Miramax style with their layout for the Great Temple. My mission with this poster was to have juxtaposition between the harsh rays of light through the window behind the Dark Hunters against the darkness of the temple with Lee Khan, flipping the norm of light and dark, having the hero in the dark and the villains in the light. So here we go, another look there. Right, moving on. Next page. Oh, now that's awesome. That is awesome. Lee Khan surfing through the skies here. Got some little, some other indications here. So this is the wireframe. There's the actual setup in Blender. So up here, that's your camera. There's a couple different light sources bouncing around here. This looks like it's the Coliseum model. Then we've obviously got the Lycan model, some different pillars in the background, some pipes, and that's what's showing right in here, the piping. So seeing the layout up in here, and you know what, I'll bring this up a little bit closer so we can take a look at that first Blender scene real quick. So that to me is like one of the, I love behind the scenes and stuff like that, because it's, you know, it's just like a couple, 4 different pieces there. But then when we take a look at this full poster, it looks insane and it's awesome. So I love that you provided that look behind the scenes. Xornate says, this production value is absolutely insane. I love to see this type of love for the universe still burning this strong. Same here. The fact that we're getting things like this is why this community is so special. Toa Lycan, Toa Mangai of Fire. Leader and last of the Toa Mangai, the protectors of Metru Nui. After aiding Metru Nui in its darkest hour during the Toa Dark Hunter War, Lycan put an end to the violence and ushered in a new era of peace. But peace was not to last, as one by one members of his team went rogue, were killed, or disappeared on quests for Turaga Duma, until only Lycan remained. Now he must act quickly to save the heart of Metru Nui and secure its future. This is one of the first posters I made for the 2004 era. I was even using the old Eevee render engine. Before I had fully modeled Metru Nui's architecture, I used simpler, temporary models to achieve posters like this one. While we have since obtained better models such as Frambo's Coliseum, I'm still happy with how this poster came out. I think simple setups like this, a few buildings, a backdrop image plane, and some lights goes to show that anyone can pick up Blender and start making great art. And then just to touch on that live stream that I was talking about before, he did do a live stream where he went through how to make all this stuff in Blender. So if you guys are interested, there's like a 4-hour long live stream going through all the details of it. I myself am familiar with Autodesk Maya, so it's similar in the most basic of senses with Blender, but having done some Lego renders in the past, it was awesome to kind of breeze through and just kind of click through that, and also learn his lighting techniques, how he talks about how he lights versus, you know, how typically people light in 3D animation. It was really, really cool. So I encourage you to check that out. And again, like he said, it's just a couple simple structures here, so anyone can really get into it with a little bit of time. Here's a couple more posters in here. I'm going to go ahead and take myself off. All right, so we have down here, we've got, this looks like it's Lycan delivering the Toa Stones to each of the Matoran. So up here we've got, it looks like Nokama. Then here we've got, oh my gosh, Onewa. Wenua down in the archives. That, believe, is Matau. Nuju. And, of course, Vakama. Incredible. These are incredible stuff. I mean, the fact that he says he's making also like a short animated series out of these, I cannot wait. I just can't wait. Then we have all of our Matoran with their Toa Stones, each glowing, illuminating them. And here they are. This is almost like a replication of that scene from Legends of Metru Nui. And then, boom, now we've got our Toa Metru. Some of my favorite sets of Bionicle. If you watched any of the Matsunui Mondays, you tagged along from early on, you'll know that I gave these guys a high score. I absolutely love it. So seeing them in this sense again, it really does make me feel like a young kid again. Ooh. And I said before, this reminds me of like those CD-ROMs. If you guys remember like those little mini games that came out with the Toa Metru, Stop the Morbuzak, you know, Vakama, this is just all giving me flashbacks to that. This is quite crazy. Moshe says, it's something that makes you feel like a child. Amazing set. So he's referencing, geez, words today, you know? Referencing back to, it looks like I saw someone said they got Max Lewis and Spinax brand new. So we've got Vakama shooting off his Kanoka disc. The resolution, 4320 by 7660. Now, I am not a megapixel conversion expert, but what I can tell you is that's like 8K if you want to talk about video. So incredibly, incredibly high quality. Blender and Photoshop. Wow. 3D assets, obviously Toa Vakama, that same Coliseum structure, Metru Nui Tower, an old model, and Molten Protodermis Runway, which we've got right here. It's just a simple little model, but then it's all in the lighting, all in the small stuff. Toa Vakama, Toa Metru of Fire. Vakama, the Toa Metru of Fire, as a Matoran and a mask maker, he lacked confidence and struggled to live up to the expectations placed upon him. Namely, Turaga Duma's request to craft the Kanoka Vahki, the Mask of Time. However, his life took a new turn towards an unexpected fate when Likan delivered him the final Toa Stone, stating his destiny to save the heart of Metru Nui. Vakama continued to doubt himself as a Toa, comparing himself to his hero, Likan, and wondering how he could ever measure up to such greatness. Little did he know he would become one of the most important Toa of all time. And then obviously in his journey into Turaga Vakama, Stu's one of the GOATs. This was the very first of the 2004 posters I made with the Eevee render engine and my old material setup. Inspired by the aesthetic of Blade Runner, I wanted Vakama to be surrounded by dark skies illuminated solely by molten protodermis. The flying disc had motion added in Photoshop. Looking back, there's many ways I would change this poster, but it reminds me of how far I've come. If it reminds you how far you come of just this, then we're in for a treat as we continue to go through this. iconicstills, so you are here. Welcome, dude. Love to have you in here. I love how she made Vakama look like he fit in a film noir style, partially inspired this project. HJ Rex says, I know it sounds greedy, but is there a giveaway today? No giveaway today. We're just going to be going through this. Not greedy. That's a fair question, because typically there are giveaways, but not today. Just figured let's do a whole, let's have a little storybook Saturday night here. No comma. Wow. Nice sunset image of no comma jumping out. 3D. Look at that blender scene. Just so simple. It's just a plain image in the background, a couple lights, and then we've got our camera up there. Really simple. 100mm camera, 2.4 f-stop. If you are a camera nerd, if you are a video production nerd, you are going to love seeing all this stuff as much as I am right now. Toa no Kama, Toa Metru of Water. No Kama, Toa of Water, calm and wise, some regard her as the soul of Toa Metru. She is always there to bring the team together when it matters most. Armed with her hydro blades and the Mask of Translation, she was crucial in the Toa's success of bringing an early end to the Makuta's plan during the Great Cataclysm. Most of the effect work for this poster was done in post via Photoshop. The only parts inside Blender were no comma, the orb of the sun, and backdrop image. The water splashes and bloom were all done after rendering. Wow, that's an incredible blend. It looks, if you wanted to do like a crazy particle effects, I guess you could have had that done in Blender. But doing it in Photoshop was probably easier. While posters like this are simpler, it allows me to focus less on moving parts and give my attention to nailing the lighting and pose. The pose here was stiffer than desired. I have since been using improved models and rigs created by my dear friend Frambo, which can be positioned into superior poses. So to give you guys a breakdown that aren't familiar with, the whole 3D animation process, rigging is essentially creating your skeleton structure for whatever model you have, in this case, Toa no Kama. So what iconicstills went and did here was put a joint on the shoulder, then put like a bone that runs through to the forearm, and then another joint there, and essentially recreate what would be the skeleton. And then you're able to pose it as if it was a skeleton, and all of those 3D models that are built around the rig are able to be posed. iconicstills jumping in here says, these single Metru renders are my earliest renders. It gets way better. Are you? All right. Ben James says, you knocked it out of the park so far. Retweet. So another simple poster render here. This time we got Matau. Again, just a simple plain camera. Toa Matau, Toa Metru of Air. Hasty and impulsive, he is known to dive headfirst into danger without a second thought. That sounds just like him. Some perceive him as displaying great bravery or blind recklessness, but at Matau's core is an undeniable drive to embody and live up to the title of Toa Hero any way that he can. This is very evident in the movie. Though he may lack forethought, he is courageous and just, standing up for those in need, whether they be the Matoran of Metru Nui or his Toa brothers and sister. My original plan for this poster was to have Matau flying high above the city. I had modified early versions of Lele Metru buildings and chutes, but I couldn't quite get the idea right. I decided instead to show him flying through sunset clouds. I would later take this idea and use it for the animation of Matau flying through the sky and landing on a chute. So again, at this point, we are still, I know iconicstills mentioned back in like the cover that he starts to, work with Frambo's models and all those different rigs. But so far, it's just him and the actual parts. All right, we're on to our man Nuju here. Toa Nuju, Toa Metru of Ice. Nuju, Toa Metru of Ice. As a Matoran, he learned to rely on the future for answers, but becoming a Toa brought his attention and many more problems to the present. His wit and cunning helped him navigate most problems to the present. I'm sorry, I just completely missed that line. His wit and cunning helped him navigate most tricky situations, even outsmarting Vahki Key Rock as an exclamation point. His insistence to look ahead sometimes clashes with his brother Wanua's preference to study the past for answers. As a Toa of Ice, he can be cold and direct, openly voicing his displeasure, especially at the bickering of his team. The last of the original 6 Toa Metru posters I've made, I believe it demonstrates all I had learned up to this point. My camera work was more dynamic, implying motion with the effect for his tool slamming into the ice wall, and a better sense of depth by utilizing color to separate my subjects. While I moved to cycles for this render, I was still using my old Metru models, which would soon be outclassed by Frambo's incredible setups. So this is what he's talking about here. A little bit of motion blur on his weapon going into the ice. Great little pop from the background. You can see the eyes still glowing through. Awesome, awesome poster. There's Wanua. And now I'm looking in here. I see a lot more elements going on up in here. That wireframe, you can see how busy it is. You can see the clay render in there. 3D assets, only just an Onu Metru Tower and Wanua. So that's what we're seeing down back there. Now there's a lot of lights obviously going on in here too. Or it was done in Photoshop, who knows? I guess iconicstills you do know. Wanua, the Toa of Earth, unlike his brother Nuju, Wanua often looks to the past, studying what he can to help shed light on the present. He used to be an archivist. I probably botched that. In Onu Metru by preserving Metru Nui's history. But now, as a Toa, he must save it from its future. A task he felt wildly unprepared for, but continues to do his best regardless. This was the last of the 6 Toa Metru posters I made for in the Eevee render engine. My confidence at the time was evident in the towers I built for each Metru, as well as using impact effects and trying to balance complementary color tones. It was in this poster that I started to realize the limitations of Eevee and began transitioning to cycles. However, the work I started, mainly buildings, carried on to my later works, granting the city of Metru Nui to be finally brought to life. Onewa, this is an awesome, nice little low angle shot. I love the bend. I love the bend in the weapons here. Very reflective of the actual toy. Onewa, Toa of Stone, unlike Wanua and Nuju, a natural lack of patience finds him diving headfirst into trouble without the temperament to think ahead. He often butts heads with their leader Vakama, but as time would go on, Vakama earns his respect. Onewa had the hardest time finding the Great Disc of Po Metru due to a certain Po Matoran causing trouble each step of the way. If you guys don't know, look into the story a little bit. It's actually pretty funny who was causing that trouble. I made this poster in about an hour, and while simple, I had a clear vision in my mind for presenting Onewa. I wanted him against a low sun and the night sky creeping in, standing confident atop the stone and carving fields. This was made before I had updated rigs from Frambo, so I actually used lattices to modify the mesh of the proto-pythons to allow them to bend. So again, yeah, that's my favorite part of this poster. The flying debris was added as image overlays in Photoshop. While I could have added them in Blender, I found it easier to do in post. It's always about what works best for you, the creator. He's right. Totally right. I see you chiming in here. The backdrop is made of a Metru chest piece, just scaled up and kit bashed with some rock models, just like the original advanced artwork. Wow. Yeah. You can see that right there, that chest piece. That's so interesting, and now I can see that in the back there. Wow, it actually has an incredible sense of scale. And here we are, we've got a different render of each of our Toa Metru. So this, I remember you mentioning Matau going through the skies. I love this underwater one. This is not as white as the camera's making it pick up, or that the camera's picking it up. This is there's actually a lot of depth over in here on paper. I love this look of Vahki with the blue eyes. Obviously, the set has the green. But that's still a great look. Wow. Okay, so we have a ton of looks here. This is all no comma. This reminds me in a ton of that original animation that we had, her diving in, almost like the Gali animation too from 2001. Matau, same thing going on. Iconic stills, jumping back to these ultra wides. You did all of these in one night, so I heard you mention that you did the Onewa one in about an hour. Doing all of those in one night, that's crazy. Benjamin, you're right. Vahki did have blue eyes in the comics. You are correct. Now I'm going to guess we're going to have some more. Oh, man, this is sweet. There's Vahki. Oh, nice. Our first appearance of another a non-Toa in there. This is really nice. So again, just like the Stop the Morbuzak game, a lot of that vibe, that lighting. All right, let's go horizontal here. All right, so there we have, and I wish that I was fluent in the Matoran language because I'm not. I know that's as I just don't know from there on. But that's a great shot of the Toa Metru. You can see the Morbuzak, the vines up attacking the city. Jump back up here to 3D assets. Heroes of Metru Nui key art. The heroes of Metru Nui, deep in the city, darkness is growing, Matoran are disappearing, and the city's heroes are falling one by one. Thanks to the heroic sacrifice of Toa Likan, a new generation of Toa is born. Now they must confront the darkness and solve the mystery that lies at the heart of Metru Nui. I made this poster as concept art from the Heroes of Metru Nui project before we began working on it. I wanted something to demonstrate the vision and direction we'd be taking, and also allow myself an opportunity to experiment. Before light linking was a feature in Blender, I had to get creative with how I positioned lights. I didn't want the backlight from Nokama bleeding onto Vahki, so I made an invisible block behind Vahki that couldn't be seen by the camera, but would give me fine control of her light. So there's the actual breakdown itself. So right there, if you can see that that prism there, that's the block that he's saying is behind Vahki. And essentially the effect that gives is we have light shining onto Nokama, but it's not really impacting Vahki. So here we got to look at the different Toa models, a wireframe of Vahki here, the different weapons. These all look excellent. These models were by Frambo, so I heard you shout him out a couple different times here. That's they're awesome. And I know that you kind of got into detail on how you were able to make those bend and everything like that. This is great. Got our different masks going along the side here, and then we even got Toa Likan. Love the look at him. Model repository. Wow. So here's even more parts. Oh, look at this. We got some Toa Mata. We got some 2001 going on up here. And I know that you mentioned on the inside cover that we're going to get to the shores of Metru Nui. So I'm guessing that's where those come into play. I cannot wait for that. I love the wireframes. This canister top that looks incredibly realistic. All of these textures do. They're incredible. Getting that silver, I imagine that was really tough to get down pat, was to get all of that silver. It's that pearl color is very interesting. Introducing the villains of Metru Nui. There we go. We got some Dark Hunters, the Vahki. I love how this transparency came up, and that's like it's got that it's got a light within it, that glow, Nadiki specifically. The glow on the disc, that looks just like the glow in the dark Kanoka discs. iconicstills says Frambo is the GOAT. He's the GOAT modeler, but what I'm seeing here is that you are the GOAT visualizer. That's what I'm seeing. Love that. And wow. This is an awesome image. Nadiki, Kreka. See, I can read that. I know that says Nadiki, and I know that says Kreka. It's the best you're going to get out of me. Sorry, guys. I'll have to memorize before the next book. So again, just a simple little setup. Nothing too crazy going on. There's that same Coliseum, the old model. Nadiki, Kreka. Dark Hunters, Nadiki and Kreka. Nadiki and Kreka, the merciless pair of Dark Hunters hired to sow chaos and despair in Metru Nui. Nadiki used to be a Toa Mangai of air alongside Toa Likan, but was exiled after betraying them for the Dark Hunters. This I remember talking about way back when we had done the Toa Haga. I believe that actually came up, or maybe in a little bit in Nadiki's video as well. Talk a little bit about his backstory. After all that, being a Dark Hunter did not meet his expectations and voiced his intention of defecting to the wrong person, Rudaka, who ratted him out and mutated him into an insectoid abomination. So that's why Nadiki's Nadiki. He was a Toa. There's some really cool renders that people have done out there, some MOCs that people have done out there. But yes, he's now what we've got today. Kreka was tasked by the leader of the Dark Hunters, the Shadowed One, to keep an eye on Nadiki, ensuring they stick to the plan. His lack of intelligence is made up for, and brute strength. Both hunters are dangerous and willing to kill. The Toa has better watch out. Yeah, we know we definitely see a lot of alliterations of that. I, like many in the community, fell utterly in love with the Bionicle box art and the 2004 theme. I love the depiction of Metru Nui with large scaled up Technic pieces representing buildings, so I wanted to try my hand at it. Other than the old version of the Coliseum and some piping, all the buildings are formed using enlarged Bionicle parts. The impact effects, rain and smoke were added post via Photoshop. So now I feel like I gotta look back in here and see any of these Technic pieces, or are we just gonna see them come up in the future? This almost looks like a canister lid here with a stone texture on it. That's what I'm seeing. Oh, I love these silhouettes of their heads. Those look great. Kreka, the brute, paired with Nadiki to keep him on track, and Nadiki, the traitor, cunning and deceiving, serves himself above all else. They make quite the pair. We see that in the movie. This reminds me of the box art. So this is, I guess, what you were saying of you love the box art. Yeah, this reminds me just like that. Those are great. These are awesome wireframes here. Introducing the Vahki. There's all the different Vahki weapons, wireframes of the models, version 2004, designed by Nuparu, unit Bordak Metru Ga. So this is, yeah, you can tell by the weapon pieces from the wireframe. Staff loyalty. All right, we gotta pull this one up. While I wrote this book, last year's book had numerous writing errors, so I brought on board my good friend Ben Pendergast to proofread and rewrite parts. That's why the writing here is more fluid. Awesome. Always refining. I mean, regardless of if there's errors in that old book or not, I can't wait to jump into it. This is another one where, again, I mean, we're doing a video of a print, so there are details in these shadows. And again, for any of you guys that are currently on right now who didn't catch in the beginning, all the links in the description bring you to where you can get digital versions of this book. Iconicstills maybe one time in the future. Oh, I love this. I'm going to stop myself real quick. The version 2004 is a reference to the year 2004. So this is version, oh man, 2004. That's awesome. I love that little Easter egg. But there's links in the description to this that can direct you to all of his social media pages where you can get the free digital download. But again, I would strongly consider donating a little bit on top of that. This is clearly incredible work. We've got Viscera, Bordak, the Matoran house old, Morbuzak old. So coming back up to the render here, got all that stuff going on. Surrender or run. The Vahki do not relent. The Matoran live under the vigilant watch of the Vahki, mechanical order enforcers controlled by Turaga Duma. They are meant to maintain peace, but to some, they are little more than soulless thugs keeping the population subdued. Armed with mind-altering staffs to force compliance, one can only hope the Vahki don't find a reason to come for them. This was the first time I got to use the new Vahki and Matoran rigs by Frambo, and it was such a breath of fresh air. I could get some really flexible poses out of both characters. For Vizsla, I wanted to emphasize fear by bending her torso to lean out from cover. Whereas with the Vahki, I wanted it out in the open, standing resolute and searching for its target. I thought it would be a nice touch to add more Buzak vines to the rubble to reinforce the compiling threats faced by the Matoran, and that nowhere is safe. So definitely you can see, you talked about how things get way, way better. I can see how much more complex some of these models are starting to get. And then, yeah, I like how you're showing, yeah, her leaning out forward, and then just that that confidence, that swagger by the Vahki. And we got a key art of the Vahki. This looks just like the commercials or that old art from 2004. You replicated that so well. And yes, a good reference to the Vahki commercial. I can definitely tell how much influence is from those original content pieces from Bionicle. This and Bordak. That's a great glow. So iconicstills, how did you do the glow? And I didn't get to watch all 4 hours of that live stream where you might have gone into it with that bow rock and Tahu shot. But getting a glow like this, I imagine, is really hard, and something that when I had done any sort of 3D animation work, sorry, that camera just decided to pop off. But I had tough times with glows, and specifically with the materials and getting it to blend through, but still showing that this is plastic. So if you have any insight as to how you made those glows and you want to share, I would be very, very interested. Vahki Bordak. Great shot here. That green undertone is very reminiscent of the 2004 content. Vahki Bordak, Toa Metru Task Force. The Toa Metru had multiple encounters with the Bordak, patrolling the streets of Toa Metru. These cunning Vahki chase their targets while avoiding as much risk as possible. Bordak squads are often small and relish pursuit as a pack. Armed with staffs of loyalty, Matoran everywhere know anyone could be under the Bordak's influence. Even Toa no Kama fell to this power, briefly betraying her Toa brothers in the process. This was the first of the Vahki renders I made, which set the tone for the set. Metru Nui is often depicted with dark and dull colors, favoring blue hues, so I worked to nail the color scheme of the official packaging whilst giving it my own twist. Absolutely did. That's very reminiscent of that Vahki packaging. To add more detail to the foreground, I added a plane of water from Blender Kit, with this Vahki being in Toa Metru. I also scuffed up parts of the Vahki towers to show them crumbling in the background, demonstrating their destructive power. So you can see some small little cracks going in there. And imagine that you just probably did that with like normal maps or something like that. Any transparent pieces used a custom glass shader Frambo and I made together, which then mixed with an emission shader. It's also helped by the fact the eyes glow too. All right, I hear you. If you guys are not familiar with 3D animation texturing, that probably sounded like a whole nother language, but I follow, man. Been jamming, gonna have to head out. I'd be sure to check out the rest of this. Also, man, I know this is gonna be a long stream, so I'm sure people are gonna be popping in and out all throughout the whole thing. But appreciate it, man. Vahki Zadak, assuming I pronounced that probably wrong. Toa Metru Task Force. Zadak are brutal and fast, preferring to charge at the target and instigate combat rather than chase them down. They run in straight lines and struggle to change direction whilst in motion. Being the strongest of Vahki, they tend to deal with Rahi incidents, as law-breaking Matoran are no challenge. Their staffs of suggestion allow them to implant ideas inside a Matoran's mind, making them susceptible to suggestion. They often use this to influence other Matoran to convince troublemakers to return to work. To set this Vahki render apart from the others, I created a large plane and the sand material applied to it, subdivided the mesh and deformed it on the Z-axis, giving it the bumpy look you see. The smoke plumes and depth of field were added in post. Really? Depth of field added in post. Was there a specific reason for adding that after the fact, or Or no? I'm just curious. Did it just render a little bit cleaner? Sometimes when you render with depth of field, not only does it take way, way longer, but sometimes it can give you an undesired effect. Love the different glimmers coming off of here. Tiny Gray says, good to see another 3D artist analyze work like these renders. It's been a while since I had done a little. Maybe one day I will share what I had done. I did like a recreation of one of the Rogue One trailers in 3D animation. That's why I had actually learned Maya, and it was a fun project. I learned so much in the process. Iconic stills. So in terms of the depth of field, you did it for more control. If it's baked in the shot, it can be harder to work with. Okay, so I guess when you threw it into Photoshop later. Got it. I imagine with your animation, with the short animations, you probably have depth of field baked in, though. I feel like that'd be pretty tough to go frame by frame. Vorzok, Onu Metru Task Force. Onu Metru is under the watchful eyes of the Vorzok, the most extreme of the Vahki. While not as fast or strong as the other types, Vorzok champions sheer determination, even to the point of self-destruction. Surrender or run, the Vorzok will catch you in the end. They wield staffs of presence, allowing them to perceive the world visually and audibly as target does. Of all the Vahki staffs, these effects last the longest. A detailing method used by Advance for the original Bionicle renders was to take existing Technic and Bionicle parts and scale them up, passing them off as buildings or environmental assets. I like the curves of the Vorzok staffs and scaled them up to add to the scene as a metallic structure amongst the stone. In previous Earth element renders, I have gone with a purple color scheme, but this time I decided to follow the Vahki's brain color, giving this poster a sickly yellow tint. Agreed. I like the decision to go with the yellow. I think it's a lot more cohesive with everything. A little bit of a purple smoke hue, like sure, you'd have a little bit of a Los Angeles Lakers look going, but I think also combined with your green overall tones, I really like that. Continuing on. Iconic stills, nope, still done in post. Wow. You output depth pass so I can add in the depth of field in post and via After Effects. Okay. I was going to say, otherwise you probably are burning After Effects. Absolutely loading that thing up, adding depth of field like a camera in there or something. That makes sense. Vahki Key Rock Co-Metru Task Force. When running from a Vahki, pray it isn't a Key Rock. They are masters of strategy and predict their target's next moves to terrifying accuracy, often arriving first and apprehending a target before they have a chance to think. Nuju, however, used this in his advantage and followed them to find the great disc of Kometru. Smart man, that Nuju. Keyrock holds staffs of confusion. A blast from these can send a target stumbling around without a sense of time nor place. While the aim of this is to prevent Matoran causing further trouble, it means they can't return to work for some time. So it sounds like the Staff of Confusion just makes Matoran or Toa absolutely hammered drunk. Is essentially what Keyrock does. When I made this poster, I was becoming quite familiar with how to tackle bright, icy environments. In typical renders, the sky is bright and the ground dark, whereas I flip the script, letting the icy floor almost bloom, whereas the sky is dark and murky, representing a sense of doom brought by the Vahki presence. It comes, so just kind of flipping back, so yeah, you can see how much of a difference it adds, and it just fits better with not just the brain color, but Kometru in general. But that dark looming shadow above, it still gives the effect that you're talking about. Oh man, here we are. Vahki New Rock. This is a sick pose here. I love this glow. Red and green. Merry Christmas, guys. I love it. Staff of Command. It looks like so all these renders do utilize the Vahki Tower and the Vahki Hive. All in different, that angle's pretty similar, but they're all different. This one's a little bit further back, rotate a little more. I've got the tower. Vahki New Rock, Toa Metru Task Force. The Vahki of Toa Metru are one of the most important Vahki types as they watch over some of the city's most prominent locations. Due to this responsibility, they chose the safest and most effective ways to subdue targets so as to minimize environmental risk. Unlike their aggressive counterparts in other districts, New Rock prefer to wait and fight in large numbers to ensure success. So they're more of a pack hunter, which, I mean, all the Vahki in a sense are, but it seems like they are a lot more of that pack. Arms with staffs of command, they can force targets to obey a singular order until the effect wears off. Combining this with their bad temper, Matoran knew not to test a New Rock's ire, lest they be forced into demeaning tasks. Yeah, that sounds very reasonable. I'm gonna slide that up. That bottom, the bottom ticker is taken off a little bit there. As I was creating the set for this poster, nothing I tried seemed to work. That is, until I added molten protodermis glowing beneath the Vahki, and everything started to click. The soft light illuminating the smoke helped give the whole poster a unique look compared to the rest. As I tried to have unique poses for each Vahki, I saved time by using the same backdrop buildings, mostly from Toa Metru, so here they blended in without any extra work. So there's that lava protodermis there. Pretty sweet. Lay Metru Task Force, Vorzak, the Vahki stationed in Lay Metru. These violent enforcers are known for destroying all in their path when chasing a target. Matoran often see them smashing through the chute systems in broad daylight. From the Vahki's perspective, the only thing that matters is catching the target, even if the city suffers. So they're the Hulk. They're essentially the Hulk. Armed with staffs of erasing, Vorzak can temporarily remove a target's higher mental functions. Those affected are dubbed shamblers by the way they wander aimlessly around Lay Metru. Sounds like, I mean, the Vahki like to, are they like heavily substance users? It sounds like they just induce those effects onto the general public. Like, man. Armed with staffs of racing, all right, we just read through that. As Lay Metru is often characterized as a transport hub, I thought it fitting to include a chute. Looking at my other Vahki renders, I decided to follow the trend of having each Metru feature in the foreground beneath the Vahki and place the chute there. To create a chute, I simply made a cylinder, gave it an array and a curve modifier. Then I have it follow a drawn curve shape, and bingo, you have one Matoran chute. To finish it off, I apply a glass material and add a thinner version of the cylinder inside with an emission shader to represent the beam of energy inside. Oh, that's awesome. I love the little pipe fitting rings on the outside too. Got the Vahki hive, of course, in the background. Here's a couple more renders of each of the Vahki. I'll leave that up. You guys can blend through. So this looks just like the trailer. I saw this in the trailer. For those of you who didn't watch the beginning, there is a trailer for this book on iconicstills YouTube page, so definitely check that out. It is absolutely mind-blowing. It's in 4K. It's crazy. It will make you feel like a 6-year-old. I love these renders. I also love, so there's the chute you talked about, aligning it to a curve. And that whole process there, that's sweet. Oh, I love this. That background in there. Wow. These are all fantastic. Then we got some more of each of them. A couple different poses and show that it's not just one Vahki. I remember when they first came out, they were like first announced and we saw the images. I didn't take into, when I was 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I thought that they were, you know, just a solo, like the Bow Rock Call, because why not? And the Rakshi. But they're a little bit more of a pack. Introducing the Morbuzak. A darkness lurks deep within the city, Matoran are going missing, and deadly vines are spreading throughout Metru Nui. Its name, Morbuzak. Even the Vahki cannot overcome its power. And as the city falls into ruin, the Matoran wonder who could possibly save them. So we got all of our character introductions. Now we're moving into the story of 2004. iconicstills says, these are some of my most proud works, to be honest. Going back to these Vahki, I completely understand why. They're insane. Plastic enthusiast, super cool. Yeah, man, this entire thing is incredible. It's amazing how much people breathe life into Bionicle still. I love it. writing the Heroes of Metru Nui. So a little behind the scenes here. This project, the book, and the in-production Heroes of Metru Nui, that's like a series, an animated short series, would have never gotten anywhere if it weren't for the diligent and ingenious writings of my dear friend Benjamin Prendergast. Make sure I get that right. When I made the world of Metru Nui, I had written the entire book myself, but as this project was much larger in scope, early on I decided I wanted Ben to take up the mantle as writer. To further explain the astonishingly amazing work that has gone into the entire project, I'll now hand it off to Ben to tell you himself. So there's Ben on the right here, pictured above, directing Andy Taylor on the left, the voice of Duma. That's, so, in the trailer, there's one line you hear from Duma, so there he is. Benjamin Prendergast, writer for the Heroes of Metru Nui. The story of Bionicle is well established and well loved. To do a justified retelling requires a balance of creative liberty and honoring of the source material. Such has been my responsibility as writer and head of the story. The bulk of this role for the shorts has been screenwriting and lore keeping. Our aim from the beginning was to prioritize action shots and visual spectacle, so in crafting a narrative blueprint, I compensated for minimal dialogue with clear, directed action and visually implied context. That makes me think of a lot of those shorts that would come out. I mean, the 2001 Toa Metru come to mind right away in terms of that. It was important to retain the essence of the original content whilst accommodating our creative aspirations, so a few minor narrative deviations had to be made that allowed for us to cover the story properly within our working boundaries. Ben on the left here, you can see some recording going. I also lent a writer's perspective to the shot design process in translating script to screen and crafting characterization document to aid the animators in bringing the characters' personalities to life through physical movement. For this beauty of an art book, I had little to contribute except as proofreader, but the trailer held plenty of excitement in writing the voiceover script for Turaga Duma, finessing its timing to the visuals, and directing the live recording session. Capturing Duma's essence was a real test, for as we know, Duma is a disguise, and we wanted to feel that fine balance between the masked role and the one behind it. So here we've got a couple different script document here, a little bit of some production documents in there. Introducing the Matoran of Metru Nui. So I lied. We are not completely into the story yet. There's the Matoran. Oh man, this is sweet. I feel like in 2004 we didn't get a ton of different visuals. I mean, maybe less so than with the World of Metru Nui when those sets were coming out. So this is cool to see this stuff as well. Flipping, we got some key art. This looks just like the box art. This is 2004 to a T right here, man. Let's go into our 3D assets. Each of them are torn. Nuri, Tahuti, Orcam, Visla, Akmau. This guy, man. This guy. If you know, you know. And Eri. The Matoran of Metru Nui. The Matoran of Metru Nui, resourceful, intelligent, determined. They work hard to keep the Great Spears running smoothly. Amongst them, however, are 6 who have found the locations of the Great Discs, legendary artifacts that have been hidden around the city with the power to stop the dreaded Morbuzak plant. Nuri, Tahuti, Eri, Orcam, Visla, and Akmau. Only they know the secret, and therefore they are the key to stopping the plant menace wreaking havoc across Metru Nui. But dark forces are after the discs too, and they will stop at nothing to get them. The Matoran had better watch out. Metru Nui is no longer safe. This is very heavily covered in the comics. Those initial 2004 comics is what this is kind of going to. Tiny Gray says, I'm putting Iruni and Akmau on my shelves right now, LOL. Dude, Akmau, that guy, man. Story part begins now. Beautiful. To me, this is a classic product spread. I wanted to harken back to the older group shots we'd see of the characters all together. I gave each Matoran a unique pose and purposely placed Akmau at the back as the outcast of the group. I used a wider lens to give the shot more of an imposing impression too, as though the Matoran meant mean business. These aren't helpless villagers, but heroic characters in their own right, ready to fight for their future. So there we go. There's our outcast goon, who essentially started Bionicle COVID. Again, if you know, you know. See, something that I would always get a lot of slack for, especially early on in Metru Nui Mondays, was that I wasn't posing everything. I wasn't taking full advantage of the posing. You clearly did that. These look great. So the rigging in these were all Frambo's. You sent plenty of comments to, or compliments to. Turn this back over here. So we've got some Viscera, the student, Toa Metru. Give me 1 second here. While seeking the great discs of Toa Metru, Viscera is hunted by the deadly Nadiki. Scared, she flees to the top of a high building with no time to think, only escape. Viscera liked Nokama maybe too much, and once she found out her friend and fascination had become a Toa, she was overwhelmed by jealousy to the point of venturing out to retrieve the great disc herself. Little did she know that other, more violent beings were after it too. Now, her only hope is for Nokama to rescue her. The Project Metru Nui Rising team were kind enough to lend me their models for the Great Temple and the sea-based Toa Metru buildings for this project, and man did they help. The setup here was simple inside a Blender, but I did a lot of work in Photoshop to get the horizon line. Initially, the line between the sky and sea wasn't to my liking, but after adding a small touch of blur, mist, and contrast, I think it ended up working really well. Due to conflicting lore sources, I realized too late that the Great Temple is not the building Viscera gets stuck on, but I believe such an impactful landmark and aesthetic made it to turn out for the better. So we've got Viscera stuck, gorgeous sunset, water in the background. I get Naboo vibes. And then this gives us a little bit better of an image of the actual setup. Nice, beautiful render of Toa Metru here. This is, so if you remember that shot of the Vahki, let's go back a couple pages here. Look familiar? They're on that same building. And you can see some of the different deteriorations going on here. And then we have our Toa Metru towers. Tahuti the Archivist, Onu Metru. Tempted by the opportunity to bring a Nui Jaga to the archives, Tahuti goes to meet who he believes to be Viscera to trade it for the great disc of Onu Metru. When he arrives to find the four-legged monstrosity Nadiki, he flees deeper into the archives but falls and traps himself under rubble. Working with Wenua, when they were both Matoran, they both practically lived in the archives. While Tahuti knew of the Great Disc's location, he was only really interested in the glory of a new archive exhibit under his own name. This scene setup I have used in the book trailer as well as a few other posters. It was one of my first environments I had set up for this project, and it took many attempts to nail the look I wanted. The film had an almost organic look to everything. I wanted to make the archives appear more metallic than industrial, with large piping, roof lights, and hanging cables. It is built from a mixture of kit-bashed Blender kit assets and custom models I made myself, along with a cut-up Toa canister made by Nick Hydronia. So there's a good look at the environment in here. See that light pouring through. This reminds me of like General Grievous running down the invisible hand a little bit. For you Star Wars fans out there too. This is a sick shot. That's sick. Again, it's a shame they're taking a video of a print on the book. Doesn't show the detail quite as nicely as I can see with my own eyes, but looks great. Oh man, old buddy's trapped under the rocks. Kanoka disc just out of reach. More Buzak. Nuri, the mask maker, Toa Metru. Nuri was Vakama's mentor, but as Vakama's mask-making skills grew, so did Nuri's jealousy. There's even a little bit of a theme with jealousy here with these Matoran of Metru Nui. This reached a boiling point once Taragaduma instructed Vakama to forge the Kanoi Vahki, Mask of Time. His jealousy led him astray and straight into a trap set by a certain Po Matoran, Akmau. Now trapped under a building building brought down by Morbuzak, he must rely on his former student Vakama to save him. This poster is actually a direct remake of a panel from the 2004 comics. When I was researching ideas for how to show each Matoran, I thought this moment and framing best captured Nuri's utter helplessness. I reused many of the models from other Toa Metru shots with added rubble. The sun rays were a mixture of Photoshop effects and a cone in Blender, with the noise emission material, though most of the smoke was done inside Blender for once. Toa Metru. Very industrial. Very, very industrial. That's sweet. So that building is really just that little top there. You never know with that shadows. Oh, man. What a sick shot that is. That's amazing. Just a crystal and just Eri. The messenger, Toa Metru. Eri dreams of being a scholar at the knowledge towers of Toa Metru, but he is stuck as a simple messenger. Upon learning the location of Toa Metru's great disk, an opportunity appears. Akmau offers him a secret that would make the other scholars beg him to work with them. Sadly for Eri, when he goes to meet Akmau, he is confronted by Nadiki and threatened for the disk's location. Eri refuses, and the Dark Hunter brings crystal blocks down upon the Matoran to trap him. Now it is up to Nuju to carefully save him from this precarious jail. Akmau, man. Akmau. He's the woat. My posters tend to not fall into extreme camera angles, but as the subject here is Eri's dramatic trapping, I thought an extreme low-angle shot would emphasize the danger well. To get the crystals looking as they do, I use two materials, a crystal one and a snow one. I mix them together with a noise node to allow light to pass through in certain places, giving off a misty, soft lighting we see here. No, like you said, like this is definitely much starkly different from the previous renders that we've seen. It works, and it gives you that sense of entrapment for sure. This is great. Just the skyline of Toa Metru out, a clear sunny day. Really, really cool stuff. There's again another type of tube. Shoot, I'm sorry. This guy. Someone come up here and push him off. Akmau, the Carver. Akmau, across his varied and controversial history, has always been one to mess with the wrong sorts. When the Dark Hunters came to Metru Nui to sow chaos, Akmau agrees to help, driven by his own selfish intentions. However, as his plan falls apart, he looks to the Toa for protection, climbing atop a huge sculpture in Po Metru to appear in peril, knowing the Toa will come to his aid. When I was thinking of how to portray Po Metru, I couldn't find many references for building style. What I could find, however, was their carving fields. Filled with tents, huts, and progress statues, and tall metallic towers connected to cables and beams, I modeled all these elements after a mixture of reference from the Legends of Metru Nui film and advanced renders. For this poster in particular, I wanted to convey the extreme heights of tower, so I used a wide-angle lens, and lots of fog to further exaggerate the distance. Yeah, absolutely comes through here. So this guy, he's the worst. He's absolute worst. You know, he causes all this trouble. He comes to Metru Nui, decides to help out the Dark Hunters, which, by the way, just the name. Come on, man. Use a little bit better judgment. And now all of a sudden he's in too deep with the sharks, and he decides to climb up here to gain the boy who cried wolf help. And then, like I said, he started Bionicle COVID. That was on Matsunumi, but it still happens. This is a gorgeous shot. This reminds me so much of the Legends of Metru Nui, that just, like, think about, like, the Kikanalo herd. And then all this transports. This is amazing, because those are custom models, too. Obviously never came out as a set. Orcam the Rider, Lay Metru. Orcam was the only Matoran to actually find the great disk of his Metru. Due to his knowledge, he is targeted by Akmau and the Dark Hunters. After refusing to work with them, the Dark Hunters threaten him threaten him into going down a dangerous chute system, which results in him crashing and getting tangled up in cables. When he and Matau were both Matoran, they were rivals, but now he must look to him for help in his time of need. It's interesting that a lot of them seem to have like a history with whatever Toa, because obviously you go Matoran at Toa, and it's almost like this group of Matoran that are highlighted in the 2004 storyline are like the ones that are all a little bit of a jealous, or there's a little bit of some conflict in their history. Other than the Metru Nui CD, which looked just like a bunch of stretched wires, we never got to see what this entanglement of chute cables looked like. Due to this, I decided to take all that I had learned about Metru Nui architecture and designed it myself. I thought this was a room with a lot of cables. It might have a control panel, lighting, storage boxes, etc. To sell the ideal that Orcon was trapped, I wanted him to be reaching out for help and to be smothered in darkness, with just one spotlight pointing down on him through these, as though these could have been his final moments if left undiscovered. I can see these are all like the Technic tubes again. Kanoka disc just out of reach here. It almost gives me like there's like the Morbuzak vibes are what I get from this, but these are actual just like control panels. That's a pretty cool tie-in. This shot from the trailer, this is one of my favorite shots that I saw in the trailer. I am biased. I loved green as a kid. It was my favorite color growing up. So anything with the Lay Koros, the Lay Metrus, I'm a little bit biased towards. I love the whole chute system too. This is incredible. Modeling the Heroes of Metru Nui. In 2022, I met my dear friend Frambo. He's helped me more times than I can remember. We first teamed up together in 2023 on my The World of Metru Nui trailer. I handled the lighting, compositing, directing, environment design, and Frambo, who carefully modeled and rigged the Toa Mata and the bug, then animated the entire sequence himself. After we wet our toes in the world of animation, I pitched a project with a larger scope, more animation, characters, and environments. Frambo graciously agreed, and the rest is history. He's since diligently been creating the characters and rigs from scratch, working with me to define the direction for the project early on the shot list with Ben and myself, animating parts of our new trailer, and even having a touch on Metru Nui environmental design. Below, Frambo goes in depth on all he has accomplished for this project. So this is all a note from Frambo. Modeler, rigger, co-director, animator for the Heroes of Metru Nui. I was among the first that iconicstills approached in this project's idea to, and so happened to have a set of 2004 pieces prepared from a cancelled personal one. I'm more or less responsible for the various characters seen throughout, particularly their models, rigs, and parts of their animation. There's a nice little rig. So this is kind of what that rigging looks like in here, and there's actually some more images over there. This is the actual workflow in the 3D animation. In this case, they use Blender. My main goal was for accuracy regarding the Lego piece models, which I modeled in Blender. After a while, you begin to notice the consistencies, and at times, lack thereof, which links so many different molds and designs together. It becomes useful for strategizing where components, such as doubled-up pinholes, can be reused across parts. Much of my reference material was gathered from the internet, borrowed scans from other Bionicle modelers, and bespoke pictures helpfully taken by friends. An additional challenge that emerged was reworking many pieces for more advanced posability than the sets would allow. The bending toes of the 47298 Toa Metru foot, for instance. As such, I had to integrate modeled hinges or delicate regions where the mesh clips between components. I believe that the pure look of the sets and their own clunky, abstracted forms of the human body represent Bionicle's unique aesthetic the best, and so wanted to capture it. Agreed. In that review I had for the Toa Metru way back early on in Metru Nui Monday, they definitely brought that more human-like appearance, especially like with their shoulder pads, a little bit more cohesive, blending between all of the different areas of the model, and I think you definitely made that come across in your models. For any sufficient animation, you need a good rig. A lucky aspect of this project, and frankly this era of Bionicle, is that across a good 20-odd characters, you can group them by their handful of body types. So for 6 Matoran or 6 Toa. I only needed to make one rig, and swap out parts like props and masks. These character rigs were designed based on a conglomerate idea of Pierre Picaut's layered bone system and various standard form character rigs I have seen in use for industry-level animation and VFX production. My ethos for the rigging was to create tools which gave an animator precise control over the character's pose, but with grace and readability. Hopefully that's the goal I've reached. The rigs themselves are built in a layered system, bones deforming the geometry, mechanism bones responsible for automatic functions like IK, limbs, and stretch bones, and lastly the controls, which are self-explanatory, I'd imagine. Just catching up in the chat here. Elbows and knees were the best gift sets ever had. Yeah, man, the Rakshi introduced the knees, and then we got some nice little elbows in the Toa Metru. So much better for posing. Here's our Matoran model, so very similar to what we saw with the renders for the Toa Metru models. There's Nuri. All the different masks. These gradients on the masks are perfectly replicated to that original source material. For anyone who's got a real sharp eye or is well aware of this, these are the Turaga masks from 2001. Just with different prints. And they look so much different. They did a great job. They reused the molds, but really different. The Turaga Duma. The Dark Hunters, Nadiki and Kreka, report back to Turaga Duma on their progress. Everything is going according to plan. So we've got some Vahki. We've got this snake. And then we've got the two Dark Hunters. Tiny Gray says IK is animation rigs. Thank you. Thank you for that. I was a little bit confused there for a second. We've got a couple different renders. This is like those posters we would get all throughout Bionicle. We've got Toa and Matoran. This pose by Vakama. I said early on in the stream, Vakama is my favorite of like the set Toa. Man, Matt's favorite character-wise, but this dude looks sick. Plus, he had the transparent red disc. How could you not love it? So here you go. So here you talked about back when you were doing the Vahki render that you didn't go with the purple, but here you did. It works well. The green and the purple are a great color combo. Good stuff. The search for the great discs. Oh, I love this. There's the code on the Kanoka discs. Transformed into the new Heroes of Metru Nui, the Toa must find the great discs to thwart the sentient plant menace, the Morbuzak. Danger lurks behind every corner, and 6 Matoran who know the discs' locations have gone missing. Can the Toa save them in time? And so we just saw all of the Toa, or the Matoran, getting stuck in different situations. Oh, first we're starting off with Nokama running away from the Bordak. Nokama flees the Vahki in pursuit. Having recently become the new Toa of Water, Nokama has her first mission, find the Great Disc of Ga Metru, and to do that, she'll need Vissela's help. Upon searching Vissela's home, she quickly learns that not only is Vissela not there, but she holds something of an obsession for Nokama, which has landed her in deep trouble. It isn't long before the Vahki catch wind of her intrusion and make chase, prompting Nokama to flee the scene and dive into a Ga Metru protodermis stream. One thing we never saw much of in Metru Nui was the ground level and city streets. Yep, we did not. I had an opportunity here to try my hand at showing these off. I looked at a variety of official and fan-made images to get an idea for aesthetic, but what really helped were the Metru Nui CDs that showed their brief yet closer look of the world. Eventually, I landed on a street of Matoran houses in front of a larger Ga Metru district towering behind them. I also thought it was a great moment to show more Matoran and how they would react to the Vahki pursuits. So, got a couple different Matoran there, small in the background. Nokama obviously front and center. Wenua. Wenua, haunted by the Rakshi. There's the Rakshi of heat vision. If you guys are real paying attention here, this is actually the Bionicle Stars Rakshi. Fun fact. Tahuti is in trouble and only Wenua can save him. Deep in the archives, Wenua searches for his missing friend, only to find a Rakshi has been let loose from the containment and is now skulking about the tunnels. What a word, skulking. To get to Tahuti, Whenua needs to use his wits and new powers to get them both out in one piece, and that means not getting fried by Rakshi heat vision. I was really excited to make this poster. Spoiler, it's a moment from the Heroes of Metru Nui that I was eager to perfect. And this poster acted as concept art. I wanted to sell the overpowering heat blasts from the Rakshi, scorching the air, and acting as the main light source. So as opposed to my previous art in the archives, I toned down the blue lighting in favor of darkness. The Rakshi rig and setup was kindly donated to me by Dibjub Master, who also animated a shot of the trailer. He is an incredibly talented individual, and it was a pleasure to work with him. Shout out to Dibjub Master. So yeah, you turn this down. I love the particle effects or whatever you did to create these actual heat beams going. They look great. And there's Whenua just crouching behind here, waiting for that to be over, and then he can go attack. Tomas. Sleep well. Fine work as always. Hey, thanks for joining in, Tomas. Appreciate you hanging around here. Iconic Stills, I gotta head out. It's 1:20 a.m. here. You're over in Europe, I know. But I'm for sure watching the rest of the stream tomorrow when I get up. Thanks again for going through the book so thoroughly. It's so amazing to see your opinion. Hey, man, thank you. This is literally not possible without you. I don't know of anyone else tackling something like this, especially for Metru Nui. We have a couple games for Mats Nui, of course, but nothing like this. You're expanding the lore. You're bringing it back in a higher quality than what we got in 2004. And genuinely, you're making us all feel like kids again. Like we're getting this like adult like comic, and we're getting those better looks at the CD models. This is incredible. Thank you for joining in. I'm honored that you were in here, and pumped to hear if you have any other comments. I'd love to catch up after you're able to watch the rest. Vakama and Nuri find the Great Disc. This is actually shown in the Legends of Metru Nui, I believe, for a brief second when he finds the Great Disc. Vakama and Nuri entangled deep in the fire pits of Toa Metru. The Great Disc is guarded by the deadly Morbuzak vines. While Vakama is able to claim the disc, leaving the fire pits isn't going to be easy. Nuri loads Vakama's last disc of Reconstitute at random and fires at the Morbuzak. If not for their quick thinking, this could have been the end of them. Now another Great Disc is in their possession. The setup for this scene was much simpler than others. I added a series of pipes trailing down a large tunnel, along with smaller horizontal pipes. After adding some mist and smoke, the scene was set. Unlike the trailer, the vines here are long cones with many bones to allow them to move. When thinking about the lighting of the fire pit, I realized it would work best with the strong lights pointing down the pit, and a softer, larger orange light on the floor directed up at the subject's feet. This gives the subjects clear highlights while softening their shadows in the faint flames below. Yeah, this is obviously a very intricate lighting setup. And the model's pretty straightforward with, in terms of just the vines and the Toa and Matoran here, but the lighting, I imagine, was the biggest challenge going on here. On to Onewa. Upside down pyramid. Interesting. Toa Metru Great Disc. Onewa retrieves the Great Disc. Plummeting through the sky, Onewa has secured the Great Disc of Toa Metru from the top of a finely balanced upside down pyramid. As the monument comes tumbling down, Onewa uses his proto-pitons, someone can correct me on that, to ride the falling rubble. Below, his brother Vakama superheats the air to slow his descent, buying Onewa just enough time to free himself from falling debris. I couldn't find many references of this moment aside from the brief shot in the film, a single comic image, and the written segment in Trial by Fire. Onewa is headstrong, confident, and determined, so I wanted to have him acting as if he was in control of the situation despite the reality. The upside-down pyramid was modeled using a destructive modifier on the base cube that I stretched out, then Kip bashed a series of rocks to the mesh to more closely resemble its form in the film. The metallic domed casing at the top that held the Great Disc was also modeled in using the film as a reference. So here, yeah, I agree. The pose is like he's chill, he's calm, he's vibing on the way down from this pyramid, but obviously he's in great danger. This is a great shot of Nuju. We got some chutes in the background. Matoran actually going through them. talk about hiding in plain sight, the Great Disc. It was just sitting in there. That's funny. Nuju frees the Great Disc. The Great Disc of Toa Metru awaits, frozen up high among the knowledge towers dotting the region. With Vahki on his trail, Nuju uses the predictive strategy to his favor and follows them right to the disc, before making his way up the tower and ripping it out with his crystal spikes. When making posters for brighter, more open areas like Toa Metru, I have to get creative with depth. I usually use darkness, vignettes, and strong light to direct the viewer's gaze, whereas brighter scenes like this pose more of a challenge. 100%, because you can easily, and again, this is not just completely white, washed out. This is a very, very clean, detailed render, very soft looking. It's just the way that it's coming off camera on a book. Instead, I used a more intense depth of field and implied depth using color, while the scene contains mostly blue and turquoise. I varied levels of saturation and hue to make Nuju stand out. Interesting. I would not have guessed that, but it definitely works really, really well. Okay, this looks like a movie poster. This is incredible. This lighting actually reminds me of the Mandalorian Season 3 poster. This lighting and this color scheme. If anyone else can draw that parallel, this reminds me a lot of that. Same look. Great color palette. Matau saves the Great Disc from the Notch. The Notch is an ancient maze of unstable chutes that Matoran avoid for fear of getting trapped, or worse. Unfortunately for Matau, the Great Disc of Le Metru is caught within, in what Orcom calls a force sphere, a dangerous bubble of magnetic energy that pulls in anything until the chute collapses. Matau braves the sphere and is almost killed, but saves himself with elemental powers, creating an air vortex that blows him out of the Notch to safety. This was a fun place to work out as I got to convey the sensation of speed in a static image. After creating a large cylinder for the chute, I littered the scene with Technic parts and cargo models I had made, all surrounding a noisy beam of energy representing the chute's core. I then implemented a strong motion blur in the composition process to not only show the speed of the items in the chute, but to help Matau stand as if he launches for the disc. You can see a Toa limb there, Toa limbs in the background, some little Easter eggs there. Yeah, you definitely did. You can see the motion blur on some of the edges of the model, and then as you focus in towards Matau, they become a little bit clearer. Even the disc has that little bit of a motion blur going off. Came out great. And there's the Morbuzak, and I guess you could call it its glory. The Toa enter the Great Furnace in Toa Metru to discover the king root of the Morbuzak plant. Towering over the Toa, the Morbuzak feeds off the heat of the furnace. Armed with the 6 great discs, the Toa have one chance to rid Metru Nui of this menace. Spoiler alert. I think they're going to win. And there they are, all firing upon it. That's an epic looking shot right there. Morbuzak Showdown. The Toa Metru march into the Great Furnace in Toa Metru to confront and get rid of the king root of the Morbuzak once and for all. Armed with the 6 great discs, they do battle with the humongous monster, making sure not to become ash with all the same molten protodermis around. Or with all the molten, yeah. The Morbuzak doesn't go down easily, ripping up vats and rubble to destroy the heroes. As each Toa fends off the large vines, they soon become overwhelmed and depleted of elemental power. With only one choice left, activate the great discs. Aiming the energy of each disc at the root, the Morbuzak starts to crumble, as does the furnace. With the Morbuzak vanquished, Metru Nui is safe, or so they think. These 3 Morbuzak posters were particularly difficult to render due to the large amount of volumetrics used to get the desired foggy look. A lot of what makes these posters work was done in post with generous use of smoke and light effects. The energy from the great discs was entirely done in post, but I did position point lights on each disc so the lighting in the scene would match the final composition. So 6 Toa Metru, Molten Vat, and the Morbuzak King Root. Oh boy. Alright, we're transitioning here a little bit. Oh, Wenua. Dude got absolutely dusted over here. Man, that is an awesome render right there. That's a pretty sweet one. Kraka, the shapeshifter. Now, if I remember when I did my review of the Toa Metru, I got some slack for never making this. This is like an unofficial model combining all 6 of the Toa Metru. I never actually made it in person or for a review, but now we get to talk about it here. Deep in the archives lies a Vahki beyond any the Toa have ever known, with the ability to become anyone or anything. This mighty creature will fight to defend its home. So he can imitate the powers of her disguises, incorporates and features all 6 Toa Metru, is naturally defensive and intelligent, is technically a Vahki made by the Makuta species. Rigs were made by iconicstills. So this must have been early on, or maybe you just did this one without Frambo. Oh man, this is an awesome shout out. Oh, I love this. If you guys are familiar with the Rahi Beasts book, you know exactly what this is before I even say it, or if you just read that right there, you know what it is now. Tatarak. Attack of the Tatarak. After slumbering for so long in the web of Onu Metru maintenance tunnels, the Toa Metru's exploits inadvertently awaken this Tatarak, wreaking destruction over Toa Metru. Powering through the ground, the great Tatarak brings ruin to the district, all the while bellowing for an answer to the question no one knows. With only 3 Toa Metru available, Nokama, Vakama, and Matau engage in a deadly battle with the beast. It is thanks to the power of the Kanoka discs that the Toa managed to weaken the ground and send the Tatarak back to the depths from whence it came. Spent all that time trying to escape just for nothing, Paul. My good friend Agitation, spelled with a J, was kind enough to lend me to set up for the Tatarak. I wanted this poster to be on a scale similar to Godzilla, a large creature leaving destruction in its wake, so I made sure to scale it up beyond the tops of surrounding buildings, with smoke plumes and the ground littered with rubble. For lighting, I thought I'd tried something new and go for a silhouetted look. The volumetric rays you see peeking through the Tatarak's form were done in Blender, and I think they do a wonderful job of showing how it is so large and blocks out the sun. Definitely, it doesn't look like it still blends very well to the sense of like it doesn't look like it's so scaled up that those parts, obviously you can see those are Lewa Nuva's weapon pieces right there. They're clearly scaled up, but it's not too much to the point where it's jarring, is how I would describe it. Oh man, music scores. There's a piano right over there. I might have to, I can't read sheet music though, so I might have to figure out how to read sheet music and then give this a go. Scoring the Heroes of Metru Nui. From the very beginning of starting this project, myself and Frambo both agreed we needed a strong musical direction that could harken back to those halcyon days of 2004, heroic, electronic, and mysterious. As we got deeper into the process, Ben, Frambo, and myself all thought bringing in our good friend Jamie Aspden to write and perform the music would be a perfect choice. And boy were we right. Jamie brought in his incredible unique flair and style to the Heroes of Metru Nui in a way we couldn't foresee. Let's hear from Jamie how he did it. So here's Jamie Aspden, the composer for the music, the Heroes of Metru Nui. Composing the music for the Heroes of Metru Nui art book trailer has been an extremely rewarding creative journey. The team had a clear idea of the musical influences that could shape the sound that we were looking for. So by the time I was involved, I had a solid temp list and various other references to inform my work. I used various software synths for the chord progression bed, generally tuned for a more epic and reverb-saturated sound. I then bolstered this with slightly more aggressive synths and made some more natural orchestral and choral sounds to highlight moments of melody, and to get more of a feel of the bio side of Bionicle. I also created a full approximately 1 minute Toa Hero theme, which is teased at the end of the initial cinematic section of the trailer and will come back in various guises throughout our upcoming release. This was based off a guitar improvisation that I recorded for the project, which I later transferred into a different instrumentation and orchestration. Reading. Man. This gave us a distinctive musical motif that we can throw back to. I'm gonna drink some water there, man. Been on for just about an an hour and 38 minutes here, so the voice is starting to go a little bit, but we still got like 40 more pages to go, so we're rolling. For the sound effects, I used a combination of pre-recorded effects, some supplied by the team, many of them sourced online, with almost nothing ending up in the final piece without significant processing, such as equalization, compression, distortion, reversing, and modulation. I also recorded some brand new audio effects for things like the Matoran shoots, my toilet, and the Morbuzak vines, me stirring soggy pasta. Oh, that's cool. So you guys almost had like a little bit of a Foley exercise going. There's a screenshot of the trailer theme in Studio One Pro. Look at all of these different chords going. If you ever look at like a professional audio mixing or a professional video editing timeline, it'll blow your mind just how many different little small things are in there. I used various software synths for the composition, all VSTs in my chosen DAW, Studio One Pro. The primary hardware that was used was the Nectar Impact LX61 and MIDI keyboard controller. This keyboard includes a set of pads that I use to finger drum the majority of percussion parts. This reminds me, I saw it behind the scenes of like Hans Zimmer scoring something, and it was just like a little mini keyboard like that, and it's paired essentially with a library of instruments, and you can just, similar like if you have like a keyboard and it can say it has different little instrument settings on there, think of like this on steroids, and that's what you get with this sort of software. For Sony Aris 4.5 monitors and sub 8 BT subwoofer, the subwoofer came in handy when mixing the low end, trying to keep things in the bass frequencies not too overwhelming. Presonus Audio Box i2 and Presonus Studio 1810C were the audio interfaces that were used. A 5-string concert bass drove the bass line. A 87 reissue electric guitar. This is the guitar I have used for all the guitar parts in the music so far. It has an excellent high-grain Seymour Duncan distortion pickup that provided an immediately recognizable heavy, yet classic rock metal tone that harkens back to some of the music associated with Bionicle, although it still sits as something a little different from the typical scooped and active pickup sounds from the early and mid-2000s rock and metal. Wow. Wow. Look at this render of Metru Nui. This is unbelievable. The Great Cataclysm. The beginning of the end. Matoran are moved into stasis pods in preparation for Makuta's great plan. Time is short and Metru Nui's future hangs in the balance. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen a render of Metru Nui like even like close to just depicting this whole island. This is... wow, this is unbelievable. We don't get anything like this in the movie. I've seen a couple of Metru Nui, of course, but wow. Oh my goodness. There's the Makuta talking to Duma. Oh man. These are such good throwbacks back to Bionicle. You can even see here. Look at those waves. Wow. Wow, that looks incredible. The Toa Metru face-off. Vakama, Nokama, and Matau find themselves in the Toa Metru carving fields at night. All seems quiet until the Dark Hunters, Nadiki and Kreka, ambush them. Confronted and faced with only one option, the Toa prepare to fight, but Matau charges in boldly without thinking. He is struck by Nadiki's force bolt and trapped, leaving Nokama and Vakama to come to his rescue. This poster was really fun to make. I got to take a moment from the film and reimagine it in my own style. During the process, I asked myself what angle would be dynamic, whilst allowing me to show as much action as possible. The official Bionicle art tended to have a foreground character close to the lens, overlooking a battle, so I opted to honor that here. Due to the forced perspective, Vakama isn't actually looking at Nadiki, but is closer to the camera and facing frame left. This is so I could pick a better silhouette of his form. I often say it is better to break things if it were to make the art better. So, just judging here in the photo, there's of course Nadiki struck down. Remember the film? Awesome moment. Nokama. What's really cool is it's this moment from the film, but in the set form. Obviously, they're rendered completely differently for the movie. Getting them actually here, like just looking at Vakama is what kind of threw me back for a second. Like, oh man, like I gotta remember here, like this is him as a set. Matau in the back kind of almost looks like that movie version, but here, wow, Great work. There's the Kikanalo. Iconic moment from the film. The herd of Kikanalo and Nokama just coming to the rescue and saving them from getting trampled like Mufasa. Nokama commands the Kikanalo. Just when the Toa are down, hope arrives in an unlikely form. A herd of Kikanalos stampede into the carving fields, forcing the Dark Hunters to retreat. If it wasn't for Nokama discovering her mask power of translation and communicating with the Kikanalo, this would have gone very differently. Usually my posters are eye or ground level, putting the viewer in action with the characters. But here I thought they would be a nice change of perspective to see the scene from further away. There's almost a tilt shift effect going on here, with the ground out of focus, leaving the character sharp. To get this effect, I use a depth map, or mist pass as Blender calls it, to isolate and matte everything from the character's legs down and apply a lens blur, letting me keep the subjects in focus. I made sure to try and capture the personalities of each character, particularly Nokama taking extra care to calm the Kikanalo, and Matau's shock at the revelation of her power. So there, you can kind of see Matau's like a little bit leaned back. Vakama's like, he's giving a nice little fist pump. That's what it kind of looks like to me. That Kikanalo, that eye glow looks incredible. Nokama, this is, yes, of course, the masks glow when they discover their mask power. This is her finding out she can translate, talk to anything, anyone. Pretty sweet. Ooh. So now we're clearly in the movie storyline. And again, I can't point out how much I enjoy seeing moments from the film, but in the actual set form. Oh man, to even keep the blue axle pin there, that's a great attention to detail. That is awesome. Great job. Great job, iconicstills. After the Toa reunite, Vakama discovers Turaga Duma slumbering in a Matoran stasis pod. So crazy Vakama, and now all of his visions are starting to come to light here, to fruition. This shocking revelation creates a new, crucial question. Who is impersonating Duma? Who is it? I mean, eventually, we all know, and I feel like a lot of you guys, you definitely know. Turaga Lee Khan reveals his suspicion that Duma has been compromised for quite some time. Vakama suddenly realizes Duma's true identity. None other than the Master of Shadows, Makuta Pterodax. There's Turaga Lee Khan. Oh boy. Get ready for the showdown. With the truth about Turaga Duma revealed, the Toa Metru journey to the Colosseum to confront him. Upon their arrival, Duma reveals his true identity and unleashes an army of Vahki on them to stop them from rescuing the Matoran. The only hope for the Toa is to fight together. After breaking through the Vahki forces and the Dark Hunters, the Toa Metru make their way across the Silver Sea to save what Matoran they can. Vakama becomes enveloped in another vision, revealing to him that the original reason why Duma tasked him with making the Mask of Time. This is a crucial point in the film right there. This, I believe, is our cover. Similar. This is like the comic book art. Similar location, though. We got Matau looking over like, what is this? I mean, referring to the film, I mean, he's like, he thinks Vakama is an absolute nut job. What's this guy doing? I love this little extra added detail that he's almost got like a lens behind his mask. I really like that. Oh, man. This must have been such a hard model to create. There's the shadow hand grabbing for Kreka and Nadiki. Eventually they meet their fate. Nadiki, man, they're named the Dark Hunters. Like I said way earlier in the stream, why'd you join them? They're literally telling you that their name's the Dark Hunters. The rise of the Makuta. The great cataclysm has begun, and the Master of Shadows, Makuta Pterodax, has revealed himself. Shedding his disguise, the Makuta needs a mask to fuel his transformation, and sadly for the Dark Hunters, they are loose ends that need tying. Creating the shadow hand in this poster was a test of my abilities. I completely get it. I had not manipulated volumetrics to this degree before. Instead, I opted to create a base mesh for the hand and wrist, and then used the Real Cloud Blender add-on to transform the object into a cloud-like volume. To get the color fall off, I comped together a few passes of the shadow hand in Photoshop. The Colosseum was incredibly designed by Frambo. The guidelines given were to create a design that mixed all interpretations of the monument, mainly from the movie and advanced versions. I am ecstatic with the result, and Frambo has outdone himself here. He even added power unit and cables to each Metru, as canonically the Colosseum acts as a power relay. So there's the Colosseum, very reminiscent of the film. And again, that hand came out very, very well. That's a monster right there to try to go and replicate. There he is, Pterodax. This is so cool. We've never gotten him in a set form. Those wings came out great. The Master of Shadows. The time has come for the return of the Makuta. Shedding the Turaga Duma disguise, Makuta Pterodax reveals himself to the Toa Metru as his plan rapidly approaches completion. After absorbing the mass of the Dark Hunters, Nadiki and Kreka, along with Duma's pet Rahi, Nivok, he regains his monstrous Shadow Titan form, complete with intimidating wings. Donning the Kanohi Krakon Mask of Shadows, the Makuta is here to ensure nobody gets in the way of his plan. The Matoran have been placed into stasis pods with the help of the Vahki. His virus to put the Great Spirit to sleep has been unleashed, and now all that's left to deal with are 6 meddling Toa. Scooby-Doo vibes. Those 6 meddling Toa. Makuta, the Big Bad. I could have used the 2003 variant or the Ultimate Duma version, but honestly, I think this design inspired by the movies is the coolest and most striking. I used the studio file of the design from Rebrickable by the name of Big Judge. Was it Aaron Judge? I guess he would have dropped the design. However, I'm told the initial design was from Makuta Nui MOCs and it was adapted from that. To get wings working, I simply created some planes in Blender and deformed them to be wing-shaped. They don't work well for animation, but are great for renders. Yeah, this looks very, very nice, very reminiscent of the movie model, but also using those official parts. I really like the decision there. I think if you went with the Ultimate Duma version there, I don't know. I feel like this came out a lot better than that would have. And there's the big showdown. There's Makuta, and we got Vakama. But Vakama's got a new weapon now, guys. Or at least he's about to. The Battle for Metru Nui. The Makuta has revealed himself as the evil impersonating Duma and has unleashed a virus, putting the Great Spirit into a never-ending sleep. With the Matoran in stasis pods and the Vahki under Makuta's control, all hope seems lost. It's now up to Vakama to confront the Master of Shadows and save the heart of Metru Nui. This was the first poster in the series, recapping the final confrontation of 2004, and I fell in love with the colors and mood so much that I decided to make more depictions of this scene. I studied the moment from the film a lot to understand what time of day it was, how the rocks and environment looked as they do, and the timeline of events. Once I had this main setup sorted, I could easily modify to fit the other moments for the following posters. I faked the God rays with a cone object with an emission and noise shader applied, then some extra effect worked in Photoshop. Most of the ground fog was also added in post. It could have been easy to fall into the trap of making Vakama's red stand out against the gloomy environment, but I thought it would make him more impactful to let his color be washed out. I think the washing out fits the vibe of the scene very well. I know you said you loved how it looked in the film, and I think that's the way to go. With this one, it's climactic. It's the big battle. We've obviously got the lighting coming in from behind. And there we have some additional posters. Wow. Yeah, so there's the red shining a little bit, and then there it is. The Mask of Time. He's throwing that thing on, guys. Dude's getting ready to rock. Faced with oblivion and impending fall of Metru Nui, Vakama reveals the Kanoi Vahi, the Mask of Time. He puts it on as a last resort and attempts to stop the Makuta by slowing down time. In a cruel twist of fate, Vakama realizes he cannot properly control its power and struggles to hold back Makuta's shadow hand. Oh, a little bit of trouble there. Oh, there's Lee Khan. Dude took a... There's Lee Khan. Dude took a little bit of a tumble there, guys. It's the end of Lee Khan. And I don't want to play spoiler in case nobody knows what gets used, but that mask is going to come in handy. And there's Vakama, partially invisible. Great callback to the movie. That was probably a really fun texture to design. A shader. That half transformation, that's really cool. The Vahki lost, Vakama found. Vakama fought valiantly to fend off the Makuta. Let me get that a little bit more centered. Vakama fought valiantly to fend off the Makuta, but even with the Mask of Time, he could not totally defeat the Master of Shadows. If not for Turaga Lee Khan's brave sacrifice by taking the full force of Makuta's Shadow Hand, Vakama's legacy may have come to an abrupt end. As the Vahki plunges deep into the Silver Sea, Makuta dives off the Great Barrier with the vain hopes of catching the mask before it's lost in the Sea of Protodermis. I am proud to have called you brother. With Lee Khan's final words, Vakama finally comprehends his destiny and his mask power of concealment. Renewed with duty and purpose, Vakama readies himself for one last attempt to save the heart of Metru Nui. So there they are. No more Mask of Time, but he knows now. Now I can turn invisible. Now I got a cloak. And there's the Kuta Pterodax back in the background. And there's the 6 Toa concealing him together. Unity. Getting him stuck behind that wave of, I believe, Protodermis. Maybe they'll say, and I'll be right here. Maybe. Who knows? And so the Makuta was sealed within solid Protodermis. There it is. Bang. Knew it. By the Toa Metru's combined elemental powers, his plot to control the Matoran has been foiled. For now. The Toa embark on a new journey to evacuate the Matoran from Metru Nui and take them to the safety of the world above. An island paradise. Oh, I just got chills thinking about it. I knew when I started this book that I wanted to recreate this exact moment from the film. It is the culmination of the team's hard work after overcoming so many obstacles when the odds were stacked against them. But in the end, they triumphed together. I expected a tough job getting the energy effect to work as it does, but inside BlenderKit, there's an energy effect that I was able to download, and it worked perfectly. The extra glow and bloom was added and posted via Photoshop. One thing I tried particularly hard to get right were the long shadows stretching back from the Toa. Believe it or not, that was the hardest part. So, it's talking about this was the hardest part of getting the shadow. Just, again, that's funny that's the hardest part, not these different colors all blending together, which turned out amazing. And there's I really like this little layout in Blender. Oh man, the nostalgia is kicking in really, really heavily right now. The Escape to Mata Nui. Fun fact for anyone who didn't know, these are just 2 of the Toa canister tops that you get with the set. They just screw them together like that. And then you get those pods. I actually don't know if it can fit a full Matoran in there. That'd be a fun little test. Or if anybody knows, drop a little message in there. The Makuta is beaten. For now. After a short, relentless odyssey as heroes, the Toa Metru sacrifice their powers to wake the Matoran from their stasis pods and enjoy 1 year of peace in their new home, the island paradise of Mata Nui, named after the Great Spirit. But Metru Nui is not forgotten. One day it will be refound. Enter 2005. But yeah, they were Toa for such a short amount of time. I mean, you think about it, they barely had time to be Toa, but oh man, remember when we saw those parts way at the beginning? And I was like, I know this says it's going to Mata Nui. There's Vakama. There's he's turning into Turaga Vakama. All the other Toa Metru watch on. We're transforming ourselves back into oh, did not mean to put the message back up there. Accidentally clicked. They're watching this transformation, and look at those bright, vibrant colors of Mata Nui, man. If this doesn't pump you up, I mean, that's incredible. And there's Jala. Man, that just takes me back, seeing the Tahunga. And it's really cool seeing that is the Tahunga, because in the film it's obviously like the animated models to match Jala and Takua from the films. But this is really cool. Even seeing a Holly in the background. We never got a Holly Tahunga, like, officially. Wow. That really jacks me up to read The World of Metru Nui. Oh, man. And just when we thought it was safe, this sinister man back there. The throne, the Rakshi vats. Oh, yeah, they got that's so cool. The Makuta plots his revenge. Down but not out. I'll get this a little bit flatter here. Down but not out. After a brutal battle with Toa the Makuta's reign of shadow is over before it began. Initially sealed in protodermis by the 6 Toa Metru, Makuta is eventually freed and follows the refugees to the island paradise above. His wings were clipped in a brutal confrontation to retrieve the Kanoi Vahki, Mask of Time, but his cold and ruthless determination remained unscathed. After a year of making art inside the world of Metru Nui, it was nostalgic to come back to renders in the world of Metru Nui, reusing the set and throne from the previous renders. One thing I particularly like about these darker renders is that I get the chance to make the character really stand out. Here, that meant playing with both light and shadow to highlight the amazing new design of the Makuta to reflect his movie form. I really like that look at the blender scene. Wow. And then we have all the different trailer shots. Jumping in here. So cool. And those of you who are in here that didn't see the trailer, I'll play it one last time before this stream is over so we can all get a look at that one more time. There's our cover. The Heroes of Metru Nui. The concept of Heroes of Metru Nui has been in my head from since before Bionicle Day 2023, so seeing this poster actually get made is utterly mind-boggling. I am always trying to improve on what I've done before, and I wanted this specific poster to be an event. While I think the front cover for the World of Metru Nui was great, it was quite last minute and some of the ideas weren't working. Plus, I really wanted to have the characters be shown in an environment, so I designed this one around platforms I had created for other posters, all centered around the incredible Colosseum modeled by Frambo. As this was about the heroes and villains, I decided to split the poster into heroes on one side and villains on the other. In the center would be the Toa, and behind everyone was Duma and Makuta, signifying them pulling strings from the shadows. Even Akmau was placed at the bottom and facing away from the heroes to denote his questionable morality. Questionable morality, sinister morality. Atop it all is the Vahki and the 5 great discs that would create it, solidifying the central arc of the 2004 story. This is the way of the Bionicle. Closing thoughts. After finishing the World of Metru Nui, I initially didn't want to do another art book. They are incredibly time-consuming and difficult to make, understandably so. But after seeing the torrent of love and positive feedback from my first release, and all the art released since, I felt compelled to try one more time. When I say this book and the entire Heroes of Metru Nui project has been a labor of love, I really mean that. The first book took me over a year to make. This book is even larger, with more art, and was managed in less than a year. But I didn't go in alone this time. From the very beginning, I had the support of my good friend Frambo, who has helped me in more ways than I can remember. Writing is my weakest skill, ironic for making a book, so having Benjamin Prendergast on board has been a lifesaver. He makes everything sound just right that I could sound so right that I couldn't imagine it any other way. And Jamie Aspden, having you score this project has been a dream come true, bringing this entire vision to life with your impeccable music and sound. I met Netherabot shortly before releasing my first book, and since then, you have been a good friend to me. And the work we've produced together is some of my best, including the amazing shot you worked on for the trailer. And to everyone else who lent me their skills and time to animate the trailer, Get to the Point, Rick Bionicle, and Dibu Jamster. Sorry about that. You've all done incredible work, and I couldn't be happier. To everyone who has supported me, offered advice, helped me with this project, pitched in with their own free time and skills, I owe you all the largest thanks I can convey. This book, the project, wouldn't exist without you, and I want you to know just how much I appreciate each and every one of you. To the fans of my work, you have stuck by me for 2 years now, powering my soul to create more and more. This book and project go out to you. You have all left so many kind, reassuring, positive, endearing, and helpful responses to everything I release, and I couldn't be more thankful and proud. It is said a lot, but the Bionicle community really does stand head and shoulders above the rest. So thank you all. Without you, there would be no iconic stills. Just as last time, I hope this book can stand to inspire those who want to create their own art, to show that anyone can do this, and I will do the best I can to support those who want to get into this medium. I would say one day Bionicle will return, adjusting a quote from Metru Nui. But the truth is, Bionicle never left. It's just in new hands now. This community, the world of Bionicle, lives and dies with us, the fans. The more we create, write, draw, paint, sing, build, and play, Bionicle will stay alive. Here's to Bionicle, my team, my friends, and the community. Very, very well said. And then we have some credits. Go ahead and flip through these. Obviously, look at how many other people were used in here. Wow. And there we are at the back cover. Let me flip on the other camera real quick and then so that one like auto turns off after a little bit, so that's why when I went to go flip to this one again, I wasn't there. So back, still here. This water is empty. Let's jump to just the main shot here. Incredible read through. I felt like I learned so much about the Bionicle lore that I really wasn't super fresh on. Obviously, going through the parts of the 2004 story that are more of like the comics and the books, the backgrounds behind each of the characters, I really appreciated that at the beginning. And then again, just the quality of these renders is mind-blowing. It's truly, I don't have much other words to say for it. It's incredible. If you guys want any copies for yourself, again, this hardcover is not available. It's sold out. If there's a future run of it, you'll notice it. It'll be posted on iconicstills on his social media, his Twitter, X, Instagram, all of that. So definitely check all of his stuff out. His page is loaded. I mean, loaded with content to go through, and they give high res looks at all the different renders. So definitely check that out. I think one more time, let's take a look through that trailer.
Our great city, forsaken by its beloved heroes, but left to defend its own peace. It thrives. Now, new threats emerge from the shadows. Must we protect ourselves once more? Who else could possibly be worthy? After all, can we trust heroes anymore?
All right. Even it's still just as amazing the second time watching through that thing. Honestly, I've seen it probably like 10 times. Obviously, that animated short I can't wait for. Again, thank you all for that have popped in and out during this stream. It's been a blast. This has been by far my longest stream. We are almost at 2 hours and 15 minutes here. It was a pretty beefy read through, but we did it. I appreciate it. Thank you all for jumping in the comments, Hero as well. Tomas, I know you just said you had to go to bed. Thank you for jumping in, man. Appreciate everyone that stopped in and out. We had a ton. I'm looking at the number right now. Plenty of people jump in throughout the stream and come in and out, and it was a great time. When I get the second one, the Metru Nui, we'll go ahead and do another one of those. I think that's going to be a little bit shorter than this one, but we'll see. Iconic Stills, again, thank you for everything you're doing. Your closing message about the community and Bionicle and all of that is perfectly said. We are the ones that keep this one going. It never left. Bionicle, sure, there's no more official sets, but we keep this thing alive, and let's continue to do that. This book is a very good representation of how much passion we all still have for it, and all of the people who still want to see this. The reception that you've gotten and that you deserve, Iconic Stills, is very well deserved. So thank you all. You know, if there's any other way to end this other than saying, this is the way of the Bionicle. And I completely missed the stream there. This is the way of the Bionicle.